Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel Grammar Treehouse. Let's talk about something that trips up even the most seasoned writers: the comma. This tiny punctuation mark can change the entire meaning of a sentence, but so many of us use it based on guesswork, just dropping it in wherever we feel a pause. Sound familiar? Well, today, that all changes. We're going to spend the next few minutes turning that comma confusion into comma confidence. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear, simple framework for using commas correctly and effectively, making your writing stronger and more professional. So, grab a notebook, and let's unlock the secrets of the comma together. First up, the most common and probably the most familiar rule: using commas to separate items in a list. When you have a list of 3 or more things, you place a comma after each item to keep them distinct. For example, I need to buy bread, milk, and eggs. The commas here act like little dividers, making the list easy to read. Without them, I need to buy bread, milk, and eggs becomes a jumbled mess. Now let's talk about that final comma before the and, the one after milk, in our example. This is called the Oxford comma, or serial comma. Some style guides say it's optional, but I'm a huge fan of using it because it eliminates ambiguity. Consider this sentence: I'd like to thank my parents, Taylor Swift, and a unicorn. Am I saying my parents are Taylor Swift and a unicorn? Probably not. Adding that Oxford comma clarifies it. I'd like to thank my parents, Taylor Swift, and a unicorn. See the difference? It clearly separates each item in the list. My advice? Get in the habit of using the Oxford comma. It's a simple trick that adds a ton of clarity to your writing. All right, let's move on to rule number 2. Using commas after introductory phrases. Think of an introductory phrase as a little warm-up for the main part of your sentence. It sets the scene or provides some context before you get to the main subject and verb. These phrases can be short or long, but they always need a comma to separate them from the main clause. For instance, after the long meeting, we all went out for coffee. The phrase after the long meeting introduces the main action. We all went out for coffee. The comma signals the end of the intro and the beginning of the main event. Here's another one. To be a great writer, you must practice every day. To be a great writer is the introductory element. It can even be a single word, like, however, I disagree with that point. Or, unfortunately, the store was closed. That comma is crucial for rhythm and readability. It gives your reader a slight pause, helping them process the information in the right order. Without it, sentences can feel rushed and clunky. So, whenever you start a sentence with a phrase that isn't the main subject, pop a comma in right after it. Next, let's tackle how to use commas to set off non-essential information. This sounds complicated, but the concept is simple. If you have a phrase or clause in the middle of a sentence that adds extra detail, but is not crucial to the sentence's core meaning, you should surround it with a pair of commas. Think of these commas as handles that let you lift the extra information right out of the sentence without breaking it. For example, my brother, who is a fantastic cook, made dinner last night. The main sentence is, my brother made dinner last night. The part, who is a fantastic cook, is extra information. It's nice to know, but the sentence still makes perfect sense without it. That's why we put commas on both sides. Here's another one. The old bookstore, a favorite haunt for local students, is closing down. The essential sentence is, the old bookstore is closing down. The phrase, a favorite haunt for local students, is just an extra detail. The key test is this: if you can remove the phrase and the sentence still makes complete grammatical sense, then it's non-essential and needs to be set off by commas. This is one of the most powerful uses of the comma, as it helps you layer information in your sentences without confusing your reader. Now for a big one: using commas before conjunctions in compound sentences. First, what's a compound sentence? It's simply 2 complete independent sentences joined together. The words that join them are called coordinating conjunctions. and there are 7 of them. A great way to remember them is with the acronym FANBOYS. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. When you use one of these fanboys to connect 2 full sentences, you must place a comma before it. For example, I wanted to go to the beach, but it started to rain. Notice that I wanted to go to the beach is a complete sentence, and it started to rain is also a complete sentence. They are joined by the conjunction but, so we need a comma right before it. Here's another. She studied hard for the exam, so she felt confident on test day. She studied hard for the exam is a complete thought. She felt confident on test day is another. The word so connects them, and the comma comes first. This is a super common point of error. People either forget the comma or use it when they shouldn't. The key is to check if you have a complete sentence on both sides of the conjunction. If you don't, then you don't need a comma. For example, he walked to the park and sat on a bench. Here, sat on a bench is not a complete sentence on its own, so no comma is needed before and. Let's discuss a slightly more nuanced rule, using commas to separate coordinate adjectives. That sounds technical, but I promise it's straightforward. Coordinate adjectives are 2 or more adjectives that describe the same noun independently. When you have these, you should separate them with a comma. For instance, it was a bright sunny day. Here, bright and sunny both independently describe the day. How can you be sure they're coordinate adjectives? There are 2 easy tests. First, try switching their order. It was a sunny, bright day. Does it still sound natural? Yes, it does. Second, try putting the word and between them. It was a bright and sunny day. Does that work? Yes, it does. If the adjectives pass both of these tests, you need a comma between them. Let's look at a case where you don't use a comma. He was wearing a dark green sweater. Let's try the tests. He was wearing a green dark sweater. That sounds wrong. He was wearing a dark and green sweater. That also sounds weird. In this case, dark is modifying green, not sweater directly. Dark green is a single unit of color. So, since the adjectives are not coordinate, you don't use a comma. This rule helps your descriptions flow smoothly and makes your writing sound more polished. Finally, let's cover a very practical use of commas in dates and addresses. These rules are all about preventing confusion and following standard conventions. When you're writing a full date, you use a comma to separate the day of the month from the year. For example, the event took place on July 4th, 2024. That comma between the 4 and 2024 is essential. If you continue the sentence after the year, you need another comma. For instance, on July 4th, 2024, we celebrated with fireworks. The pair of commas sets the date apart from the rest of the sentence, just like we did with non-essential information. However, if you're only writing the month and the year, you don't use a comma. You just write, the project began in July 2024. Simple. Now for addresses. When you write an address in a single line, you use commas to separate the different elements, like the street address, the city, and the state. For example, her address is 123 Main Street, Anytown, California. The commas clearly separate the distinct parts of the address. Following these simple conventions for dates and addresses makes your writing look professional and ensures your information is clear and easy for anyone to read. So there you have it, a comprehensive guide to the 6 most important comma rules. We've covered lists, introductory phrases, non-essential information, compound sentences, coordinate adjectives, and dates and addresses. It might seem like a lot to remember, but I promise that with a little practice, these rules will become second nature. The best way to learn is by doing. Pay attention to commas when you're reading. Notice how other writers use them. And most importantly, be mindful when you're writing. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this deep dive into the world of commas.